But for this next one, I want to pivot a little.
Oh.
Why?
Is the Wi-Fi out again?
Maybe we should try moving the router. So good to see you again.
So good to see you too.
Yeah. So the yard, the yard's taken a lot of work.
I'm going to show you how to extend your Wi-Fi signal throughout your house. Slide it on your wireless router, and you're good to go.
1000%.
Give it a sec.
You have problems.
Let's do this.
Sweet.
This is eero. It's not a router, it's a Wi-Fi system. You place eeros throughout your home to create a wireless mesh network that blankets every room in fast, reliable Wi-Fi.
Already in your inbox. Done.
Strange adjective.
Mom! Dad!
Finally, Wi-Fi that works.
All right. I love this video because I think it's a great parody of lots of Wi-Fi things gone wrong that we could probably all relate to, whether it's your Netflix buffering or not knowing why your devices aren't working or having to put your pieces of hardware in awkward places to get great connectivity. And that's kind of where eero enters. Eero is a great solution for whole home Wi-Fi in this new category. So to introduce myself, I'm Kelly Neary. I'm the head of our eero Pro program, and so I specifically look after our dealers, our distribution partners, and everything related to supporting and marketing to these customers. So thank you for joining, and as far as agenda for today, we'll start with an overview of Wi-Fi and why we made it, and how this connects to the modern home. We'll go through a setup and technical overview, followed by discussion of the eero Pro program, and this is the dealer-centric program that we have, eero Pro exclusive features, and then we'll finish up with Q&A. So Wi-Fi in the modern home. We know a lot of you are probably installing some sort of networking equipment today, and it might be working fine, but we're here to give you another tool for your toolkit of solutions. We know you're the trusted advisor in the home, that when you have a new customer, you kind of evaluate the setup that's most ideal for their configuration and their needs. And some instances where eero is a great solution for a particular customer would be when you need a quick and easy install. So you can truly install an eero system from start to finish in about 10 to 15 minutes, and that's all done over the app. Another great situation where you might want to do an eero system is when you just need fast, reliable Wi-Fi in all parts of the home. So because eero is super modular and you're able to add different pieces of hardware as needed, eero can get you that great connection outside, to the front patio, to the garage, to the attic, through all levels of the home. So eero is a great whole home Wi-Fi solution. It also plays well with every connected device. So we have no existing interoperability issues with any connected device. In fact, we do really extensive testing with other connected device manufacturers. And eero is super secure. So, in recent times when we're hearing about lots of data breaches and data being stolen and some Wi-Fi manufacturers not having the most secure connection, eero is deciding to double down on security. We've had no security vulnerabilities to date, and in fact, we keep pushing security upgrades to new customers as they're available. So, high level there is when your customer needs something that's quick to install at a very reliable price point, and you need something that's super secure and plays well with connected devices, eero is a great solution there. So the reality is maybe 10 years ago, the home looked a lot different. You could probably get away with one router in the office of a home when there was just a desktop computer. But today when we have connected devices on the patio, maybe it's connected speakers, and then a connected doorbell, and then security cameras, those really test the bounds of Wi-Fi. So having just one access point really isn't a good solution there. So enter whole home Wi-Fi. eero was actually launched a year ago today. Today's our 1-year anniversary, and we really launched this whole new category of whole home Wi-Fi. And what that means is you're not using a series of extenders and repeaters and routers and access points. With a whole home networking system, the hardware is identical, and you can essentially add as many pieces of hardware as you need to get the coverage that you're desiring. So in today's home, the network really runs every part of the connected experience. So you might be installing some of these names today, whether it's Nest products or Savant or Control4 or Sonos. What these all have in common is that they need a really reliable network in order to function properly. We also think that there's a great proposition in eero for the price point. So the Msrp for a 3-pack is $399. We think that it's really easy to sell tangible products like 4K TVs or cool speakers, high-end monitors. Customers kind of get why they're spending so much money on those types of products because they're very tangible. A lot what we're hearing from customers is that they don't want to spend a lot on networking. They just kind of want it to work. It might be one of those less glamorous products that they're not willing to have a high price point on. So for the price and reliability of eero, we believe it would be a great solution for 80% of the jobs that you're doing today. So the reality is current Wi-Fi offerings really haven't kept up. As mentioned a little bit earlier, having one router results in an out-of-range experience. You simply don't get Wi-Fi in every part of the home. There's also a lot of enterprise-grade applications out there that are just really clumsy to set up. The cloud controller could take upwards of an hour to just configure the first part of it, never mind having to attach the different access points throughout the home. And the design really is ugly. To me, this looks more like a spaceship than a Wi-Fi router. This isn't probably something that you'd put out in the open, probably something that you would maybe shove under a couch or put in a cabinet. And when you put access points in a cabinet or under a couch, we know that the performance suffers. So enter eero. The way that we've thought about Wi-Fi is to really invent it from the ground up. So it's this whole home system that blankets your home in a mesh network, and it keeps getting better over time. So actually the eero that you install today will be a better product 6 months from now. And that's because all eeros receive updates as they're available. Whether it's new features, whether it's security, whether it's performance enhancements, all customers will receive software updates as they're available. You're not having to go out and buy new hardware every 2 years. The design aesthetic is something that's very near and dear to us as well. So our company name, eero, was actually named after the Finnish designer, Eero Saarinen. He designed the St. Louis Arch and the TWA airport terminals. And so the aesthetic is something that's going to be very important to us as a company going forward and as we build this brand. And finally, the mobile app. We've designed this mobile app to be a really end-to-end eero experience from setup to use to ongoing updates. So with an iOS or Android app, you can set up eero in about 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can enjoy some features after it's installed. And we'll get into some of those features in a bit. So we really believe that the only way to disrupt Wi-Fi was to re-envision it from the ground up. So we're a team of about 160 in San Francisco today, and we're just working on Wi-Fi. So we don't have side projects. Wi-Fi isn't an afterthought for us. This is what we do. So we have proprietary routing algorithms, and this is really the secret sauce, is the mesh networking of eero. And we'll get into the specifics of what mesh does and how it works. But it basically ensures a more seamless experience throughout the home and consistent connectivity no matter where you are in the house. We have proprietary operating systems and hardware. And so what that means is, as some other products on the shelf might have kind of off-the-shelf Qualcomm chips. The eero chipset is custom engineered. So we alone have the ability to update it on our cadence. We're not beholden to some third party for when they update it. And actually our operating system is essentially on version 2. So because that's all done in-house, we can update that as we see fit and at our own speed. I think what's really incredible is the amount of press coverage that eero has gotten in the last year. A year ago, I don't think you were quite seeing so many news articles being written about Wi-Fi routers. And what's unique is there's the likes of Ellen, Glamour, NPR, Wall Street Journal, Forbes. Those are all very different media types, and eero's really gotten a lot of attention from the super techie magazines all the way to lifestyle things. And during the holidays, it was really cool. Ellen had a special where she was giving her audience some gifts, and she had Jennifer Aniston on the show that day, actually, and the both of them were talking about eero. I thought it was pretty incredible that you'd get Ellen and Jennifer Aniston talking about a Wi-Fi router. We've also gotten some great coverage from the trade publications. There's been about 15 or so mentions from CE Pro, all the way from products to look out for it at the CEDIA show to actually winning 3 awards at CEDIA for our very first show. We've continued to be kind of a hot topic in the trade publications as well. So I think there's really 2 parts to eero, is what it can deliver to your customers and what it delivers to you as the integrator. So we have a really robust set of customer features. The top 2 that get a lot of attention from customers is guest access and then family profiles. So with guest access, you can go into your app and send your friend or family member a text message with your network SSID and password. And so long gone are the days where you have that tiny little scrap of paper and you're trying to put in that 16-digit alphanumeric password just to access the internet. This makes it really seamless for your visitors to get on your network with a separate SSID and a separate password than your main network. And so this just allows your guests to connect but not have any input as to the admin panel of the network. And then family profiles. Families love this one. With family profiles, you can group different devices on your network and assign them profiles so that you can eventually pause the internet for certain devices at a certain schedule of your choosing. So say, for example, you don't want the kids' iPads and the kids' Xboxes connecting to the internet at 5 p.m. on weekdays. You can actually pause the internet for those devices and set a schedule. So that's all done within the app. So then let's talk about the integrator features. We have a whole set of features just for our registered eero dealers. And what we most hear is that the support that eero provides and really the set it up and forget it are 2 of the strongest pros that eero has going for it. So here's a look at the packaging. We sell eero in a 1-pack, a 2-pack, and a 3-pack. The 3-pack being the wildly most popular SKU, especially with our dealers. And that's because each piece of hardware in the pack is identical. So let's say you buy a 3-pack, you only need 2 of the eeros for your job. You can take that extra eero, use it at your next job. So we always recommend getting the 3-pack. As a rule of thumb, as far as how many eeros you need for a home, we say 1 per 1,000 square feet of a home. That will vary depending on building materials of the home. In other words, if it's a brick building, you'll need more than if it's a single-story home with a rancher type of layout. And it'll also depend on the number of connected devices on the network. But as a rule, 1 per 1,000 square feet tends to work pretty well. Also in the box comes a power plug for each eero. The eeros each need to be powered through the wall plug, and then the Ethernet cable that gets plugged in from the modem to the eero directly. Now let's get into the setup and technical overview. So this is a view of the app, what you would see upon starting a setup. The first screen says, let's get started, and it shows you everything in the box. You'll just need all those parts along with an existing modem. The first step is to unplug the modem and the existing router. So eero is really designed to be the router. So if there's a standard router that you're using on the network, we recommend disabling that one and using eero in its place and connecting that directly into the modem. So once you've got your eero connected to the modem, you'll plug in the eero and the modem to power. And then next you'll create a network. And so if you give your eero network the same SSID and password as the existing network, then all your devices will just seamlessly reconnect. So where possible, we definitely recommend giving your eero network the same name as an existing network. Next, the app will ask you to name the room that the eero is in. What's interesting to me is we get a lot of data about what customers are naming their eeros and where they're placing them. The top two most popular names for eeros were actually hallway and kitchen. And that kind of surprised us. We kind of thought bedroom and living room might be more common, but this really speaks to the fact that people are really needing Wi-Fi everywhere, kitchens and hallways included. So after you've given it a name, then your first eero is essentially set up. So you would repeat that process for any additional eeros you wanted to install. And that's truly what setup involves. It's pretty straightforward and usually a pretty quick process. So to go through visually what that looks like, that setup that we just took a look at in the app, here's what it would look like when you were setting it up. So though the first eero says start on it, you can really start with any piece of hardware. You would take that Ethernet cable, plug it into your existing modem, and then use that power cord, plug it into the wall. When you see the light in a solid white state, that's when you know it's been connected. If there's ever any issues on the network, your LED indicator lights will give you some insights into that. So if it's a solid red state, you'll know there's a problem somewhere in the network. If it's a blinking blue, you'll know it's setting up. And if at any time you want to turn those LED lights off, just go into the app and select LED off. We know a lot of customers don't like those lights in their bedroom or in their living rooms. So we get a lot of questions about, if I have a switch, what do I do and where do I put that in my configuration with an eero? So the topology on the top is really what we recommend. If you have a modem, you would connect the eero into that, and then you would connect that lead gateway eero into your switch. And then from your switch, you could plug in your other eeros. What we don't recommend is the bottom configuration, plugging in your switch directly to your modem and then your eeros. And that's just because in the bottom configuration, to not determine which is the lead eero and which are the nodes, you really need to establish one eero as the gateway and plugged in directly to the modem. Now the disclaimer on this, as you'll see in that box on the right-hand side, is if the non-eero router is not bridged and the eeros are, the below will work. And we'll talk a little bit about bridge mode and how to put your eeros in bridge mode.
Essentially what bridge mode means is that the NAT and DHCP are disabled on the eeros. They just pass traffic to an upstream router, which may handle things like PPPoE authentication with the ISP, which we don't currently support. So if you have any customers with PPPoE, you will have to, you won't have to bridge the eeros, but you'll have to have the upstream router handle those functions. There are also some advanced features that customers like to keep that they have on their existing router, which may be another good case for bridge mode.
Yeah, so if you do put them in bridge mode, you would lose the functionality of guest access and family profiles. So this is a good visual of the difference between traditional routers versus range extenders versus the eero mesh Wi-Fi system. So in a router plus range extender model, that range extender will give you distance, but it will decrease your throughput. So your speeds really get cut in half, even though your distance has been improved. With eero, the mesh networking works entirely different than any of those. So let's take a look at this diagram. This compares other whole home solutions with the eero mesh. And so what mesh means is that instead of the tree or hub and spoke topology of a conventional network, you actually have a connectivity graph. And the nodes of the network make decisions about the most efficient path for each piece of data to take. So in a mesh network, bottlenecks are really less likely to limit performance because connections between the nodes are actually redundant. So that said, the network is resilient against interruptions caused by the failure of devices, meaning if in this eero blue network example, the top left was a node that was in the kitchen and you had a bunch of people over to your house and everyone was using their phone in the kitchen, eero would reroute some of the traffic to a neighboring node that maybe had a little bit less noise on that eero. So other Wi-Fi systems don't dynamically reroute traffic. And I think a good metaphor for this, which I recently heard, was you can imagine it like you were taking a private chartered jet plane to a destination, and it would take you there with the shortest amount of stops. You wouldn't have any layovers. Whereas if you were taking maybe a commercial plane and you had to stop at Chicago O'Hare in the middle because that was a hub airport and check in before you went on to New York, that would be kind of like the traditional router model where you really had that hub and spoke situation. So as really the leader in consumer mesh, we're very proud of what we've accomplished kind of in three major buckets here. So as far as technology, we actually have some patents pending on the true mesh. There's been other products coming out that claim to have mesh-like solutions, but the reality is they're actually not mesh in its truest form, and they're kind of using some glorified extender type technology as opposed to using mesh. We've had two major feature updates that every customer has received, and one of those being family profiles. And so when that was available, all customers got that. And then over 20 unannounced performance and security updates. So this is what I mentioned a little bit earlier about essentially being on version 2 of our mesh. Once we rolled that out, the average throughput of eeros improved at about 200% over the previous mesh that we had running on the network. And this is something that we'll be continuing to work on and continuing to provide to customers as available. We also have a lot of relationships with other connected device manufacturers in the industry. So if you were to call up our support and say, I'm experiencing some issue with my connected device in eero, chances are we've already done a lot of troubleshooting and interoperability testing with that device and can give you some tips on connectivity. We're very proud to say that we have over 50,000 live eero networks today. And so each eero checks in with the cloud. And so what that means is over 1 billion heartbeats of eeros checking into the cloud per day. It's also crazy to think that we have over 1 million connected devices on the eero networks. And as mentioned, eero works well with any connected device. And I think what we're most proud of here is we have zero compromised networks. So security is really at the forefront of what we're doing, and we've had no networks being compromised in the history of eero. And I think that's so important. So before any security attacks would happen, there would be signs of vulnerabilities. And so eeros can essentially self-repair themselves if they see that something weird is kind of up. Compare that to some routers, which have recently, actually throughout the holidays, been attacked by hackers. In order for those customers to fix those routers, they'd have to go online, download a driver, update their firmware of their device manually, and then get their device back online. We think in reality a lot of customers aren't going to be doing that, which leaves them just very exposed to future hacking. The support is something I really like to brag about. So we have a dedicated VIP phone number just for dealers. And what this is this delivers you to the top of the call queue. You would essentially cut any calls in the queue and be delivered to a very technical agent. I speak so much about this that I actually kind of secret shopped it recently. And in the time I was dialing a number to talking to one of our technical agents, it was 14 seconds. We know you guys can't be waiting on hold when you need help urgently. And so our dealer support is truly amazing here. 87% of our customers actually set up without calling support, and for those that do call support, over 99% are able to get their issue resolved the first time. So here's an overview of our hardware. So it's dual band encrypted Wi-Fi, again, functions on a mesh network. eero creates a single SSID, so you're not having two IDs. Your customer doesn't know when it's connected to 2.4 or 5 and doesn't need to know. That should seamlessly happen in the background. We support 802.11 A, B, G, N, and AC with dual band capabilities. It's gigabit Ethernet, and all setup is done over iOS and Android devices on a Bluetooth smart setup. We have that secure guest network where you can easily text your guests the SSID and password for your network, and automatic updates happen without user intervention. Here's a look under the hood. You can see some of the radios, the processor, the tricolor LEDs, and the Bluetooth radios. And then because we have so many networks online, we get a lot of feedback from customers about how they're using eero and what they want to see. What we most frequently hear is that they just want more visibility into the network. And so we provided that. So with our latest app update, we now provide very granular troubleshooting insights into the network. So whether it's connected device strength of the eero, or the ISP connectivity, this is all available in a dashboard on the app. So for example, say you're watching Netflix and it starts buffering. You know, how are you to know if it's the Netflix, if it's your Apple TV, if it's actually your TV, if it's your eero, or if it's your ISP provider? You can figure out very granular details of where that trouble is just by opening up the app. The app will highlight in red wherever there might be connection issues. So let's talk about the eero Pro program. So we have this dedicated dealer program to support our dealers in a very meaningful way. As mentioned, we're very proud about our dealer support, and I'll give you this number here. This is a good one to write down. This is our Pro-only number, and that's 866-754-7286. And we also have an email address for you, which is pro@eero.com. And you can expect usually a same-day response from any email that you send to that number. Another perk about eero is just decreasing your truck rolls and your callbacks related to anything Wi-Fi. You know, I hear from dealers all the time that they get callbacks for connected devices, and actually it's not that the connected device isn't working, it's that the network isn't strong enough to support all those devices. So we say anytime that you're doing a connected home install, get the network right first, put in some eeros, make sure that anything that connects to the network is not going to give you any troubles. So not only decreasing your network callbacks, but then your connected device callbacks. We offer discounted pricing through distribution. So through your Catalyst distributor, you're able to buy eero at a discount. And we're very excited to say that soon we're going to have a CI-only SKU. And this will be just an entirely different product offering from whatever you see in retail. We know this is super important, and so this is coming soon. And then finally, an accommodation program. So for any dealer who registers, we say, you know, don't take our word for how great eero is. Put it in your own home, live with it, see how it's working for you, and we're confident that after you've had it in your own home, that you'll be recommending it to customers. So we give all new dealers $50 off the purchase of your first eero 3-pack for your own home. So to get started as an eero dealer, just hop on over to pro.eero.com and then click the Sign Up Now button. And it's probably about a 5-minute process to get you registered. We'll ask you some information about your business, you know, phone number, address, email, and then we'll actually be creating a dealer finder soon where any customer on eero.com can look up their nearest pro dealer and contact you directly for product and install. So we'll ask you if you want to opt into that during your registration process. And finally, we have a pro-only feature. So when we launched, we heard lots of feedback from dealers that you needed the ability to install a network on your own device and then transfer the device to your customer. Simply put, a lot of customers aren't home when you're doing these installs, and it's not possible to set up the network on their device. So within a couple months of hearing that feedback, we released a pro-only feature called Transfer Network. On the screen, if you look at the second app view, you'll see at the very bottom a button called Pro Transfer Network. So once you register as an eero dealer, we know your phone number and your email address, and we can then show you different features within the app that we don't show to customers. And one of those is the Pro Transfer feature. So this allows you to set the network on your phone and then transfer it over to the homeowner so that they can use things like family profiles and guest access on their own app. So you would do setup as normal, and then after you had the network up and running, on that second screen you would click Transfer Network. You'd enter in the name, phone number, and email of the customer you wanted to transfer the network to. We'll ask you if you're sure, just to confirm details one last time, and then with the press of a button, you can transfer that network to the customer. The customer will then receive an email and a text message alerting them that they have this new network. So in conclusion, why eero? We think eero is a great solution for the majority of your Wi-Fi installs. It really provides that whole home coverage to every part of the home with a really reliable connection strength. You could be watching a movie on your iPad, walking through your home, and not have that connection drop. We think that's a pretty good metric of how strong is your Wi-Fi. It's super simple. It's all managed in the app, and the app gives you lots of information about what's going on your network, not only with your eeros, but your connected devices and your ISP. It stays new. So as eero has new features and better security, that gets rolled out to all of our customers. And finally, it makes all your devices work better. We know your customers are investing a lot in their home experience, and we really think the key to making all those devices work well is having that great Wi-Fi offering. So that actually concludes our content for today. Thanks for joining. I would love to open it up to questions, so we'll stick around for as long as needed to answer your questions.
Kelly, can you see the questions on the screen this time, or do they need to be read?
Yeah, can you read them out to me, Amanda?
Sure. Hang on one second. I think Ed was kind of answering a few as the webinar was going on, so I'm going to kind of find ones that don't have answers next to them, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay. Let's see here. First one is, if you have a switch, is it better to connect the LAN cable from modem to eero to switch, or modem to switch to eero?
It's almost always better to go directly from modem to the gateway eero. If they're in bridge mode, then it doesn't matter, and the wired topology can be completely arbitrary. But the switch should always come after the gateway eero in an unbridged network.
Next question I have is, some customers ask why eero is more expensive than some of its competitors. Do you have a chart that differentiates eero from the others so we can show clients?
Yeah, I think what's some of the key differentiators there is it's a little bit of you get what you pay for, but some insights as to why eero is more expensive than some of the competitors. It's our technology. So we have this true mesh. The technology of eero is very aggressive compared to its competitors. So there might be some other form factors out there that actually are the size of cereal boxes or a large box. It turns out it's really easy to fit a lot of hardware components into a bigger space. And so the form factor of eero is designed to not be ugly and to not stick out. And so as such, we kind of have less room for designing, which leads to just a more aggressive form factor. Also, it's in building the brand. So if you have some of those maybe spaceship-looking routers that we showed earlier, that's not really building a brand that customers love. They kind of don't feel good about products like that. So we're spending a lot of time into how we're talking to customers, how we're understanding what they want, and then also doing a lot of brand building through marketing and advertising. And so all those things really contribute to a bigger price point than some of the things that you'll find on the shelf.
In addition to that, we're doing things with the hardware that we have one competitor that uses the same hardware that they can't do the things that we do. Even the hardware manufacturer says that some of the things that we do with it should not be possible.
Yeah, and in celebration of our 1-year anniversary, we actually announced a price drop today. So 3 packs, the MSRP is $3.99, and for 2 packs, the MSRP is $2.99. Now, dealer pricing will be different. You'll want to ask your Catalyst distributor about your dealer pricing, but we did have a price drop today in celebration of our 1-year anniversary. And that's just because we've gotten more efficient as the year has gone on, too. So we're passing along those cost savings to the customers.
Next question is there a limit to how many can be used in one network?
There's really no maximum amount of eeros. I was talking to a dealer in Denver recently who was doing a customer's home that was 13,000 square feet, including a vault, like a bank vault. And he got away with putting 9 eeros on the network. Now, I actually would have thought that he would have needed more if you go by the 1 per 1,000 square foot model. But again, it is variable, and there's no maximum amount of eeros or maximum amount of devices. In fact, we test our networks with about 200 connected devices, just to give you, the scale of what we know eeros can do. And that's in our labs, testing with around 200 devices.
All right, next question is eero capable of port forwarding?
Yes, when not in bridge mode. Also, there's something called Upnp, which is like intelligent port forwarding. And the way it works is that a service or a device that needs a port forwarded to it will send a request to the eero, and the eero will forward that port without you having to manually port forward. And we wrote our Upnp implementation from the ground up.
And so to access that feature, you would go into your app, click on Network Settings. From there, you would scroll to the bottom, click on Advanced Settings, and here you'll see things like DNS, DHCP, and NAT, reservations, port forwarding, and Upnp.
The one qualifier I will add is that these features are not available in bridge mode because the firewall will be on the upstream router. So that's what's going to be filtering those types of traffic, is the router that is handling what the eero is not in bridge mode.
All right, next question is, we sell some Wi-Fi speakers that only operate on a 2.4 gigahertz channel, but eero always fluctuates between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, trying to find the optimal signal. Can you offer an update that allows the connection to be static with 2.4?
Currently, our 2.4 and 5 gig broadcast both with the same SSID. It would be interesting to take a look at that particular case. If we could have them reach out to Pro Support and see what's going on there. As far as roadmap plans, I don't have an answer for that today.
Yeah, but that sounds like an interesting, one-off case. I'd ask the dealer to reach out to us at pro@eero.com and just flag that he was calling in from the webinar, and we'd like to take a look.
And the reason that I ask is we have a lot of users with Sonos, and we work extensively with Sonos. I don't know whether or not this is Sonos, but if it is, we can get them sorted out pretty quickly.
Okay.
All right, next question is, will there be an installed version of the eero, maybe ceiling mounted or PoE capability?
So when we went to CEDIA last September, the two things that we walked away knowing that we had to do based on dealer feedback was PoE and mounting kits. So we're actually working on that now. We have some initial designs, and those will be rolling out soon. but we definitely understand why you need PoE, and that mounting kits would be super helpful. So coming soon.
How much more time do we have for questions, Kelly? I have a couple left.
Okay, we could probably get through them. I think we have about 10 more minutes.
Okay. One is eero capable of device prioritization?
So the basic answer is we respect the WMM classes, which are voice, video, background, and best effort.
So, I think what whoever wrote that in might be asking is, can you prioritize devices within the app? You can't manually do it. It's something that we automatically do in the background.
Is eero capable of malware scanning and blocking? And if not, is this in the works?
Maybe we could speak a little bit about our security and what we're doing there.
I can tell you a little bit about the security. We disallow root level access. We have a highly secure signing authority, so the cloud session uses highly secure transport layer security. As far as active scanning, I would have to reach out to our security team. I do have an excellent security write-up that answers some basic security questions, which I can share. And at the end, there's a link to our security team's email.
You want to give us the title of that article and where they can go to find it?
It's an internal article, but it's public positioning. So they wouldn't be able to access it through the link, but I can probably send it out or make it public.
Okay. We have everyone's email address who joined the webinar, so we'll follow up with some security messaging to those who are on the line.
Okay. Any ETA for the mounting kit or PoE version?
Yeah, I'm sorry that I can't provide more specifics other than coming soon. We're doing testing with original prototypes and designs, and after we get the validation from testing that everything looks good, it'll be available to dealers.
What do you recommend to use if we need a hybrid solution indoor and outdoor Wi-Fi, like a beach house?
Yeah, so if you put your eeros on the periphery of your home, meaning still inside, but on the edge of the outside, you'll actually get backyard Wi-Fi. So we have customers who maybe have a pool house, and then they would put one eero in their pool house and then one eero on the periphery of their home, and then get that backyard Wi-Fi. We actually had a really interesting situation of someone who had a connected tree house. So literally in their backyard, they had a tree house that was wired up, and they had an eero in their tree house, which then resulted in Wi-Fi in the backyard. So today, eero is not truly weatherized, meaning we wouldn't advocate putting it in the backyard, in the Arizona sun, or outside in a snowy environment. You could probably get away with putting it in some moderate temperatures if it was covered and in a balcony, but more to come soon.
Is there ever going to be a web browser access for the eero network?
No plans today. We are intentionally keeping it all app-based for now. We kind of believe that the app is the gateway into the eero and the most streamlined and simple solution to use.
Is there a 4-port Ethernet router eero?
Nothing today. For those situations, we would recommend using a switch.
Does using Ethernet backhaul result in higher network speeds?
Yes. So the eeros each have 2 gigabit Ethernet ports, so that will make the backbone of the network faster. The wireless clients are still going to be limited by whatever connection they can negotiate based on whatever modulation rates they support, essentially. But the traffic will get from eero to internet faster.
Yeah, and that's not even eero specific. Whenever possible, if you're able to hardwire your eero or your access points, those will always result in faster speeds than using a wireless connection.
Are there any demo programs?
So as far as demos, we really view that new dealer promo as the best way to get you a discounted eero into your own hands for testing. We also support you with marketing materials and displays for your shops if interested. So when you sign up to become an eero dealer, you have access to this portal where we have one-page sell sheets, images if you were to create banner ads or emails. And then we actually have some displays that we can help support you with if interested. If any of that's interesting, email us at pro@eero.com and we can send some of those your way. All right, we probably have time for about 2 more questions here.
All right, perfect. Here's one. Is there a diagram that details the optimum physical placement, vertical versus horizontal?
I don't know if there's one that exists, but generally speaking, the radiation pattern is similar to a donut, so it will work better when horizontally positioned. The signal goes out and mostly up. I know we don't share the exact radiation pattern, but that's the general recommendation.
Yeah, that said, we know some customers have them mounted on a wall. They'll still work fine, but optimum performance will happen when it's horizontal. And actually, if it's a little bit off the ground, meaning like on a shelf or on a bookcase, that's optimal as well, because it does emanate up and out.
Okay, last question is, what is the maximum speed you can get when an eero is wirelessly connected to the mesh?
It's going to depend on the client, again, or the device, excuse me, and the speed that it can negotiate. It would be about 550 to 600 megabits per second if the device supports, if the eero is wired into the network and the device supports 802.11ac with the most advanced modulation scheme, which will determine the speeds at which it can transmit data.
Yep. All right.
There's a much longer answer to that, but that's basically it.
Okay. Anything else on that one? All right. Well, again, thank you everyone for taking the time. Really appreciate you taking time away from your current day jobs to do an eero training. Very open for comments and questions. You can reach us at our VIP phone number or at that email address, pro@eero.com, and let us know how we can best support you. Thank you.